Hi, my name is Beth Massey, and today I'm going to show you how to use the new data repeater control that you can find in the Visual Basic PowerPacks 3.0 release. The data repeater control is a control that you can use to display rows of your data in a scrollable container, and inside you can place other Windows Forms controls. So to get at the PowerPacks, you can go to the Downloads tab from the Visual Basic Developer Center, and you can see it inside of the Downloads feed. Once you install this will install new controls underneath Visual Basic PowerPacks in your toolbox in Visual Studio. So let's take a look at how we can build an application using this new data repeater control. So I've got Visual Studio open here, and we're going to create a new Windows Forms application. So new project, select Windows Forms, and we'll call this using data repeater control. Click OK. Okay, so if we take a look in our toolbox, you'll see a new tab here called Visual Basic PowerPacks once you install the PowerPacks. And you'll notice that the data repeater is down here, so I'm going to just drag this onto our form. And the idea is that we drag other controls, other Windows Forms controls, onto this design surface inside here, and the data repeater will create a scrollable area for each row of our data. It'll recreate those controls. Okay, so if you used Visual Basic 6 before, this should look familiar. So I'm going to go ahead and connect to a database. I'm just going to use Northwind, so let's add a new data source. Okay, database, and there's Northwind. And I'm just going to select our employees table. Okay, and I'll just call this employee data set. And finish. And that's just going to get us some data to take a look at how this works. Okay, so I'm going to make the form, let's make the form a little bit bigger here, and let's go ahead and make this bigger and set the anchor. You can also set the dock, but I'm going to set the anchor. Okay, there we go. Cool. Okay, so what I want to do is I'm just going to drag a few items in here. I want to actually drag the photo, so I'm going to drag that as a picture. Okay, and I'm not going to use the label. I'm just going to put the photo right up here. Make it a little bit more square. Okay, and then I'm also going to put the last name and the first name. Okay, so notice I'm just creating some Windows Forms controls, and this is one row, for instance, of data, and you can make it as big as you want, so you could put as much stuff in here as you want. And there's a couple different layouts that you can use of the data repeater itself. Let's just put notes in here too. Okay, and I'll make this multi-line. Okay, and make it a little bit bigger. Okay, and we can make this, fill this up, space up. Okay, great. So there's a couple options on the data repeater here. If we click on the repeater itself, the whole thing, you can use the Smart Tag, and you can go ahead and select the layout style. You can actually lay it out vertically like I have it here, or horizontally if you want, okay, so that it scrolls horizontally instead of it's going to scroll vertically. So let's just see how this looks right now. Before I do that, I'm going to set the picture size mode equal to stretch image, so it fits into this box exactly how I want it. Okay, so let's just take a run, and you can see how this looks. Okay, so there you go. For each employee, you can see I have a row of data. It's actually rendering these controls exactly how I laid them out. Okay, so that's what the data repeater control does for you. And you can still get at the binding source position. The binding source is still being used here. And each one of these data repeater items you can actually draw in yourself if you want to paint a background differently, or you want to do something different like that. Okay, so let's take a look at how we could do that. So let's say what I want to do is I want to alternate the colors of the backgrounds of each of these rows. Okay, so what we can do is we can I'll just double click on here to get to the code behind, and we can handle the event on the data repeater called draw item. Here it is. Okay, so let me just get this out of the way so we can see code. Okay, and one of the parameters here that's being passed the event args here is called a data repeater item event args. Okay, then that gets us access to the data repeater item that's rendering that row, that's displaying that row's data. Okay, so I'm just going to say if e.data_repeater item item index mod 2 equals 0. Okay, so if it's an even one, e.data_repeater back color, and we'll make the back color white, for instance. Okay, otherwise we'll make the data repeater back color item back color equal to I like Alice Blue, but it might not show up on video, so let's do cyan. All right, let's go ahead and run this. So this allows you to just custom draw anything you want. Okay, great. So now we've got white and cyan alternating. Okay, so the data repeater gives you some of that flexibility that you may need to go ahead and draw items as well. Okay, so one last thing I want to show is I want to show how the data can be accessed, okay, how the rows can be accessed. And it's basically the exact same way we always access the data. You can go ahead and select the binding source. So in this case, it's the employee's binding source, and we can see the position changed. And basically what I want to demonstrate is I want to show you that the position changed on the binding source also fires even if a data repeater is being used. Okay, it's just like a grid would be used. It fires the position change of the binding source because we're scrolling on to different rows of our data. Okay, so I'm just going to put a breakpoint here, and I'm going to run this again, and as we select different rows of our data and tab through all of the controls, you'll see that this thing fires. Okay, so let's go ahead and run this once more. And you'll see it fires first. Okay, so go ahead and press OK. All right, and now as you see, we're going to go into this row, and I'm going to just tab through, and you'll notice that as I hit tab to go to the next row, it fires again. So the position has changed, meaning there's a new row, and now we're in this row. Okay, so if I go back to this row, if I click with the mouse, there it's fired again. Okay, and this allows you to get at the position of the data row that's being displayed. So there's a snippet for that. I've probably used this in many videos before. If you right click and insert snippet, it's underneath the data and designer features, and you can select convert binding source current to a specific row in a data table. Okay, so basically what I'm going to do is just put employees, I think it's employees data set, yeah, dot employees row. Okay, and then the binding source is called employees binding source. Okay, great. Okay, so that lets you get access to the row. So now you can say row dot address. Here are all the common properties here on this data row. Okay, so let's go ahead and just let's print out the employee ID. So we can just go ahead and say debug.writeLine employee ID. Okay. All right, so the data repeater acts exactly the same as any list control, so you can be assured that you'll get the same sort of behavior for all of your controls on your form. Okay, so have fun, play with the data repeater. There you can see the employee IDs I selected. I hope you enjoy this Power Packs. I hope they really are speeding up the development process for you as you build your .NET Windows Forms applications. Awesome. So I'd like to thank you for your time. If you'd like to check out the Visual Basic Developer Center, we'll be posting updates to these videos there. Please also check out the Visual Basic team blog and my blog for more information. Thanks again.